Welcome to my power earnings gap video for the week of November 3 through November 7. This is the third consecutive week. We've had a ton of earnings gaps higher, and I'm going to revisit some of the older ones and just go through some of these ones from last week, starting with Datadog, which reported on Thursday morning. You can see here it had been consolidating in a base for quite some time, pulled back to the 21 prior to the breakout. And the breakout came with decent volume, strong volume, 200, or excuse me, 376% above the average 50-day volume. And, it rallied 23%. But what was most impressive when the market was selling off on Friday, this thing just had an inside day, held up pretty well. Of course, it closed with the hammer candle, which we've seen everybody posting hammers this weekend. So Datadog is definitely one to watch, and you want to see, all time frames here. You could see the Datadog just kind of busting out of this base here, consolidation pattern, and then like a 3 or 4 week like a handle here, and then a nice breakout last week. Come on, man. The dog is on the loose. He's off the chain. All right, I like that one. I like lemonade too. So there was a bunch of them. I just tried to, narrow it down to 10, which I couldn't. So I got about 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 or 15. This is lemonade. Short squeeze potential here. Heavily shorted name rallied on Wednesday, 34%. Made a new high on Thursday, then reversed lower. Thursday was kind of a rough day on the market. And then on Friday, just pulled back to the five and bounce, found support and bounce. And that's what you like to see, this technical action here on Lemonade. This is the Friday action where it kind of sold off and then rallied into the close. It doesn't look like much of a move, but it's 69 to 75. So that's a nice move there for Lemonade. And like I said, it closed at the high of the session. We'll be definitely watching this one on Monday and all next week. Collegium Pharmaceuticals is another one broke out of a long base here. It's been consolidating for a long time. You could see this cup with handle, nice bull wedge on that handle, and finally popped last week, 17% on the week and 13% on Thursday. Followed through on Friday with a 4% move. And you can see the volume here. I think it's the highest volume in a long, long time. It had 2.3 million back on this date. March 21, 2.2, and on Thursday it had 1.8. So nearly, the highest volume of the year for Collegium. Definitely something to look forward to. And, you could see the volume on the weekly was the most since the week of August of 2024. So it's been a while here, folks. People are buying Collegium. Sanmina, the Solar Brothers stock. It really moved on that AMD OpenAI news on October 6th. Rallied up to 160, pulled back just to its 21 here, found support ahead of its earnings report. And on Wednesday, it popped a 16% above that 160.25 old high. I would say that would definitely be a trigger point. Made a new high on Wednesday of 178.39, pulled back on Thursday, which was the real rough day on the NASDAQ. And then on Friday, pulled back to its five, found support and bounced. Now, it didn't close at the high. It closed 59% of the daily range, but take a look at this 5 minute. Yeah, gap down and, buyers all day. I like Sanmina still, as long as it's above the five and the five is rising like it is. I mean, it started the week at 137 and it closed the week at 164. So as long as it stays above the five and the five is rising like that, you don't have to hold it very long to be in the chips. Another one that I really like is this pediatrics medical. This is neonatal pediatric care service, intensive care service. You can see this one breaking out. I have to go to the weekly. I'll give you the daily scoop here in a minute. I think it was Monday, the 3rd, that it broke out. I don't know what the amount was. 24% on the Monday. Yeah. So you think, oh man, 24% move at 281% above average daily volume. And it's the most volume since, long, long time, since back in May. And then so you think, oh man, this thing's gonna, pull back to the five. Well, it didn't. It went on Tuesday, made another new high, and then just had an inside day and an inside day on Wednesday and Thursday. Remember, the market was getting kind of hammered here And this thing still wants higher prices. So definitely one to watch when it's showing strength like that. On the weekly, you can see just a clean breakout from, long consolidation period here. Yeah, so what's in the box? Not the pediatrics. No, pediatric is out of the box and running like a scalded. No, I shouldn't say it. All right. Another one that I like, and I regret not buying, and that's the way it goes sometimes, is LITE, Lumentum Holdings, pulled back, prior to earnings and then popped pretty hard on Wednesday, followed through on Thursday with a new high. Yeah, it was up 24% on Wednesday, and then on Thursday rallied up to a new high, up another 3%, just pulled back to the five on Friday. Found support and bounce, closed 78% of the daily range. I just took a look at the 5-minute chart there. Yeah, just pulled back, the Nasdaq gap down, and then we saw buyers into the close. And yeah, the weekly on this one is just like this high tight flag pattern. And this one is just a monster. There it is. There's your flag. Big run, big flag. And now it's adios, muchachos. It wants higher prices. Who else we have? XMTR. This is, I believe, in a robotic play. I believe manufactured custom parts. Breaking out of this consolidation pattern here on the daily, you can see pretty clearly as it, undercut the 50, rallied back above with massive volume on the 4th, which was Tuesday. 29% move, made a new high on Wednesday when the Nasdaq was pretty strong. Just had an inside day on Thursday and then rallied to new highs on Friday. And you can see that it closed at 95% of the daily range. So if we look at the weekly here, I think you're going to see a pretty strong volume here. A couple of yeah, quarterly reports there. So XMTR is another one that I am watching. This is ESTA. I know a lot of people make jokes about it, but this is a silicone breast implant. And I just, if you just look at this chart, you say, wow, what strength, right? That 47.11 was the trigger, and it tried to rally up and then had a little fake breakout, then came back to the old buy point there of 47.11 right before earnings. So that triggered a buy, right? On this one, the 47.11 then rallied up to 62.25 on Wednesday, and you think, man, the market got slaughtered on Thursday, and this thing still went up 7%, with strong volume, two strong volume days in a row. And on Friday, I believe it made another high, right? Yeah, 65.45. So, subsequent follow through highs day after day following a massive move higher with volume. Yeah, as for establishment labs, here you can see another just clean breakout here from this consolidation pattern. So, if you're asking, what's in the box? Well, silicone implants are no longer in the box. This is Establishment Labs. You could see the RS rating 96. In a strong market, you got a strong stock. So, yeah, a lot to like there. IDXX, another one that broke out of this consolidation pattern. I kind of like this one. Yeah, it broke out on Monday and then pulled back 4 days in a row. You say, oh man, that stinks. It pulled back 4 days in a row. But the rally did undercut the 50 and rallied back above all its moving averages and got super extended here. 9% above its five. So all it did is have an inside day, quietly pull back to its five. And I think it's going to bounce next week. It's definitely one to watch. Went up on massive volume, sold off on lighter and lighter volume as the week went along. But, you can see this move here out of this base. And you can call this like if you will, a high tight flag off these lows, the liberation lows. Made this nice move and then just kind of flagged for weeks and weeks and weeks, and now broke out on an earnings report. You can see it has the blue dot signifying relative strength. So IDEXX Laboratories, man, that thing looks good to me. And then TEVA. That's why I'm showing you these because I like them. This one broke out and pulled back. Just had an inside day on Thursday when the market got slaughtered. It held up okay, and then on Friday pulled back. But I think it's just allowing this five to catch up. So I'll be watching for that, maybe a pullback and then bounce above 25 next week. All right, that's it for me, except for I lie. I have a bunch more that I like. I'm not going to comment on them. Just you can just see GMED. Yeah, that's a big move. Still within the base though. If you see, the weekly chart, it still has a lot of work to do, but it's one that I'm going to watch and see if it could trade back above that old high. So that's why you got to look at multiple time frames. Digital Ocean, thank goodness. Congrats to the longs. It's been a long, long, long time. It's still, it's got that 4702 high from, prior high, which it traded above last week on strong volume, but it also has another high from way back in 2023, the middle of 2023 at 51.69. So this one still is in a consolidation pattern, but strong week last week, and it's just been a long time coming for DigitalOcean. SGI, I just wanted to point out, household furniture, what mattresses, pillows, comfort, lumbar cushions, double bottom base here, and broke out on Thursday, which was the weekday in the Nasdaq, up 12%, and then rallied up more than 2.5% on Friday. So making new highs, breaking out and making new highs. So kind of a surprise here, but look at the sales growth, 35, 52, 63. Something's going on there. And the last one is the cybersecurity name, QULYS. Yeah, just broke out of a base. Now, if you go to the weekly, you can say, well, it's still kind of in the base, right? This is really the trigger here was a 150.58, but broke out from undercutting its moving averages and now trading above. You see there how it was below, and then on Wednesday traded above. Third 21% move followed through on Thursday, and then on Friday. So yeah, definitely earnings gap to watch. All right, I said I would go back and look at some prior ones. Guardian Health, that's what you want to see. This is what I want to see is a breakout and just kind of going sideways. Remember, the Nasdaq was down more than 3% last week. So when your stock goes up like this and just kind of flags, it was up 4%. That's kind of a positive in my view. Uh, Cardinal Health, another one that broke out, then rallied up another 6%. Let's take a look at this one on the daily. Yeah, so this one's just surfing its five now. Probably, seeking higher prices. Is it surprise to the upside here on the earnings and sales? It's amazing what earnings and sales can do for a stock. ATEC, this is one that I really like. Um, it's got a moat in a spinal surgical treatment. Some doctors contacted me and talked about this company, and they're really high on it. It rallied up on the 31st, which was that Friday, Halloween, and then pulled back on Monday to its five and continues to get support at the five. On Thursday, on kind of a whack day when the Nasdaq was down more than 2%, this one was only down 1%, bounced off its five on Friday. This is definitely one to watch for next week. The high on Friday was 2017. I think it's going higher, longer term too. Look at the sales growth 22, 27, 30. So yeah, definitely one to watch for. What else I have here? Oh, Joe. Nobody cares about Joe. Nobody listens to Joe. Nobody wants Joe. But it broke out of a base because it's a real estate kind of a company and the commercial real estate in Florida. You can see the breakout here was on the 30th, which was a Thursday, followed through on Halloween, trick or treat. And then last week, while the market was getting pummeled, this thing was up 3%. So you could see the breakout here on the weekly. So St. Joe looks pretty good to me. And then Cloudflare. This one was down last week, 8%, which is what you don't want to see, but it pulled back to the old trigger of 230, and that's why I'm showing this one here. Probably put this one on my ready list this week because if the market cooperates, I believe it can rally back up to those old highs as it found support at the 50 on Friday. Bounce, close with another, say it again, MC hammer candle. And there you can see closing at 98% of the daily range. Um, I always mention all the winners, but there are losers too. This is QURE, went up on FDA approval, looked great, right? Making new highs, and then FDA, giveth, and the FDA taketh away, and then this thing just got hammered. Qualcomm, same thing. It gapped up and then pulled back, undercut the level where it was before the breakout, which is not really what you want to see. And then a couple more. This is why I pay attention to biotech. This is a big move here. You say, oh man, 62 to 71, it's too extended. Well, now it's 105. So this is why I pay attention to gaps. A laser is a multiple gapper. I mean, if we would have caught on to this thing, which I didn't, um, back in May, it was $11. Then it gapped again in August when it was $27. Now it gapped again on last week, and that was $34. So, 11 to 34. I mean, that kind of helps out the old portfolio a little bit. Fix, this is another one that I had. I traded. I thought I was a hot shot. I think I bought it at 130 and sold it at 150 and thought I was, Gordon Gekko or something, Stanley Druckenmiller. And all I had to do was hold on to it. You know, this thing has been a big winner for a long, long time, but you could see the gaps in the chart. The one thing is that tariff tantrum, this thing really got hammered during the tariff tantrum, came down to 276 from 553. So it got cut in half. But then look, gap higher here, July, gap higher here, and it pulled back to its 21 last week. Maybe giving us a chance to get in. It was over 1,000 here. Yeah, 1,020. So now it's at 955, and that might be the only chance Comfort Systems is going to allow us to get in. Tremendous sales growth here, 19, 20, 35. That's what you want, right? 67, 75, and God, they earned eight and a quarter, $8 a quarter, 102%. And you can see, next year it's going to earn 30 to $31 in earnings. So this is no fly-by-night company. These are real sales and real earnings growth. For that one, another one, the Sienna, she's yeah, serial gapper. Man, some of these make me sick because I had them and then I sold them and I don't have regrets, just mistakes you made. Like sometimes just like, quit trading so much, just hold on to the damn thing. Um, Carpenter Technology undercut the 5 and rallied back above, but this is a nice gap on the 23rd here where it ran up above 300, pulled back to its 5, undercut it a little bit. And boy, those last 3 days. And of course, it finished Friday with that hammer candle. I want to see what the weekly looks like. Yeah, that's a nice breakout for Carpenter, another quality stock. MOFG, guaranteed nobody's heard of this one. Midwest Financial Group, you can see it broke out of the base, pulled back, and then last week had an inside week. So I think this is one to watch. It was up 5.5% last week while, the NASDAQ was floundering. But there's your gap on the 24th, a 40% move, just pulled back to the 5 and just surfing the 5 to higher prices. Yeah, I know it's thin, but I'm just talking technically here. That thing looks pretty good. And of course, SanDisk, I think this is one to own. Find a spot, right? Find a spot. This thing gapped up. And then on Friday, they announced earnings on Thursday night. And then on Friday, a nice 15% move. I was watching this one because I own it. And it sold off. It ran up on earnings and it sold off. I said, man, is this thing's going to go negative? It went down to 205, 205. I think it was negative on the session for a little bit. But I mean, just look at the weekly. I mean, this thing is in price discovery. And yeah, I don't know. It was up 20% last week while the NASDAQ was down 3%. And I just think it's going higher until it doesn't, right? It'll have a climax top at some point. But as long as it's doing that, I think you stick with it. And then the last one is ANAB. These guys have like two company. They have like a holding company, a royalty company for, they've licensed their stuff to GlaxoSmithKline and I think Vanda. And then the other company is like a biotech company with a pipeline of new drugs. It's a San Diego biotech company. Broke out of a base here on the September 30th, a 32% move, and it's just been surfing the five. Then last week pulled back and bounced. This one looks pretty darn good to me. Yeah, there's your breakout week, and then just surfing the 5 higher. Up 8% last week while the NASDAQ was down. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. This week, we're going to have more earnings gaps, so you got to pay attention. Thank you for watching. Never give up.